Hello. Have you ever struggled with purpose in life? Have you ever asked yourself, who am I really? What is my authentic self? What is my purpose? Have you ever wanted to explore spirituality, but when you started looking at things around you, it was almost insulting to your intelligence? I mean, it was just weird. You know what I mean? Or maybe you've been hurt by the church or even left the church and you just don't know what to do. And you're looking for someone to help you through this grieving process. Or maybe you just want to be a part of change for good in this world and you don't know how. Now, if any of those things sound good to you or sound like you'd be interested, stick around right after this and I'll tell you a story about this revolutionary new thing called a not church. Hello, my name is Rick Sundstrom, and I'd like to welcome you to Journey Beyond Belief, the world's first not church. Well, at least as far as I know, it's the world's first not church. So the question that's probably in your mind is just what is a not church anyway? Well, probably the best way for me to answer that question is to tell you just a little bit more about myself and explain to you why I think it is necessary for a not church to exist and what it's good for. So let me start out with the fact that before I was a pastor of an evangelical Christian church for 17 years. I started two separate churches from the ground up in the business. That's what we call planting churches. And for 7 of those years, I also had a full-time job as a high school Spanish teacher because, well, hey, I got to pay my bills. Everybody's got to pay them. And I generally consider myself a true Christian. And I believe that I did experience some supernatural things. But that aside, there was always this presence, this small voice nagging inside of my head. And no, it wasn't an actual voice, in case you're just trying to tell me, let's get some medication and you can get rid of that. But there was always this doubt that's just gnawing at me. Now, of course, as a good Christian, I was taught to stamp down that doubt, to have faith, because you just have to believe no matter what. And doubt is of the enemy. It's of the devil, and all that good stuff. So I ignored that voice as much as I could, but it never really went away. And because of that, I finally reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore, and I gave myself permission to do something that would change my life forever. And that was to ask questions. Now, I'm not sure how familiar you are with evangelical Christian theology, but it's not really super sophisticated or complex or intellectual or anything along that line. It's pretty simplistic, and it does not hold up very well to persistent, sustained, intelligent questioning. And unfortunately for me, or actually quite fortunately for me, I found that I could no longer ignore the doubt, the questions. Things just didn't make sense, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I just had reached the point where everything began to crumble right in front of me. And consequently, I'm looking at it. This was my purpose. This was what I was supposed to do. I gave up basically 20 years of my life, when I could have been pursuing careers or whatever else, to be a part of the church. And it was all coming crashing down around my head. And I soon spiraled into a significantly deep, dark depression. I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, I just didn't feel like I could be a pastor anymore. You know, everything that I thought I believed, I really didn't believe anymore. And I just couldn't justify teaching things that I knew were not true. And it definitely sent me into a tailspin. It definitely caused me to go into a full-blown midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. But eventually I came up with a plan to go back to school. I went back to school online at Oregon State University. Here we can get there we go. Go Beavers. And I got a computer science degree. And I became a software engineer. And I had nothing to do with the church in any way, shape, or form. And it was glorious. I tell you, it was glorious. For the first time in my life, I was free to be myself, my authentic self, who I really was. I mean, in the culture that I was a part of, there was a lot of control. There's a lot of, this is good, this is bad. You can do this, but you can't do that. Purpose is good. This purpose is really not. Everything was like judged through the lens of what was it biblical? Was it right? Is there and it's a very controlling type of an idea, and it kind of puts you in bondage, really. And freed from that, I all of a sudden was able to say, well, what do I want? What do I want to do? What do I want my purpose to be? How do I want my life to be? I found myself completely and totally free to be authentically me. And that was it was awesome. Yes, I hate to use simplistic words like that. It was completely and totally revolutionary to the way that I live my life. And unfortunately, as I was reaching that point, and as I lived on for a few years, I found that constant companion that I used to have, that little small nagging voice, all of a sudden rejoined me. And I'm like, oh no. Because it was, as I was trying to identify, well, what do I want my purpose to be? What do I want my life to mean? There's this little voice that was just saying, well, you know what? There were other people that were hurt by the church. There were other people that are going through things like you're going through. There are other people who are now trying to make sense of spirituality. Because I still believed in the supernatural. I just didn't believe in God the way that I believed in God before. And I was trying to make sense of things. And you know how it is. Everything's so weird. It's like, it's great. I want to try to find, wisdom in other traditions. But, there's like anything that had any religious kind of connotation to it, or supernatural or spiritual connotation to it, to me just seemed kind of weird. I don't want to put anything down or anybody's faith down. It just felt just kind of a little bit, wonky to me. And I thought, well, maybe there are other people that feel like that. Maybe there are other people that want to explore spirituality in a way that they don't have to shut off their logical, rational, critically thinking type mind in order to do it. And in a way that's not weird. It's not flaky. It's not, it's something that people can kind of do in a safe environment. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I can help people that have been hurt by the church. Maybe I can help people that are trying to discover who they really are for the first time. Maybe trying to explore spirituality in a way that a scientifically oriented mind isn't offended by. And I thought, well, that's great, but I really had been hurt by the church, and I really was enjoying being a software engineer. I thought, this is awesome. I really don't want my life to be defined by anything that had to do with religion. So I just kind of ignored that voice. I pushed it aside, but it kept coming back to me, and it kept coming back, and it would just rear its head every couple months or so. Every once in a while it'd say, maybe you can help these people. Maybe you can do something. Maybe you can be a force for good. Maybe you can change things. And I'm just like, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of this. So finally exasperated, I decided to try to pray. Now, I hadn't prayed for a long time because I didn't really know what my concept of God was. Who do I pray to? Do I pray to the universe? Do I pray to a force? Do I pray to a particle cloud, or to God, or to... I didn't know. So I decided to talk to God, or whatever it was that I was talking to. And I said, look, if my purpose somehow is to be involved in all this religious nonsense and to, help people that maybe have been through some similar things that I have, if that's really the way that you want it to be, I really don't want to do it. But if that's really part of what I'm supposed to do, I hate that too, supposed to do. That's such a conservative Christian phrase. It's just destiny and all this other stuff. I'm just like, but anyway, I said, if this is something that is a part of my purpose, then you're going to have to give me a sign. I mean, basically I called out the universe, the spiritual force, or whatever it is. I said, if you really are involved here, you need to give me a sign. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm free because, hey, I didn't really think that I was going to get anything. And now I did this ultimatum at night. Okay. Right before I went to bed. I had it. I said, okay, fine. If this is really what you want, give me a sign. And I went to bed. I got up the next morning, and as I usually do, one of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning is I check out my Facebook. Now, of course, you can tell I'm old because I look at my Facebook, but and maybe I spend too much time on social media because it can kind of consume a person. Maybe I should change that. But anyway, I looked at my Facebook, and on my feed, a place where it pops up the memories. This thing happened so many years ago, and this was something that I had posted 4 years ago. It was a quote, and it was a quote by Buckminster Fuller. And I remember this quote because I posted it because at the time I was just wrestling with the whole idea of the evangelical church and how it had hurt me and how I was devastated and how I wasted my life and all these things. I was really going through a difficult moment in my life, or time in my life, when I posted this quote. And I was thinking, can I change the church? Can I be a part of the change? And I thought, no, I don't want to have anything to do with the church. It can't be changed. It just needs to just go away. It needs to just basically die and be replaced by something better. And I don't mean any threats or anything like that. It just needs to come to it just needed to come to an end. It needs to be replaced by something that's better. And that's why I originally wrote this quote. But I just, of course, I didn't want to be a part of the change. But here's the quote. It says, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And again, that was a quote by Buckminster Fuller. And that quote hit me like a ton of bricks because it brought back all those feelings. And I realized right then and there that, wow, I needed to do something. And I tried to write it off as a coincidence. I said, oh, this is a coincidence. This isn't a sign. I mean, but basically to me, and you can call me foolish if you want to, and you can say, oh yeah, it is just coincidence. But to me, it was like I called out the universe, and the universe like answered me. Put it back in my face and said, oh yeah, here's a sign. What are you going to do about it? And that was a good question. What was I going to do about it? I mean, was I supposed to start a church? I mean, I had no desire whatsoever to start a church. And I thought, you know what? I don't need to start a church. I need to build a new model. a model that will make church obsolete, so to speak. And instead, I decided to start an online community. And here's the answer to your question that you've been waiting so patiently for is what is this not church? An online community that basically does the things that I was talking about, things that I went through, a place that encourages and supports people to discover who they truly are, to be their authentic selves, to learn about themselves, to discover purpose, to create purpose. Also a place to safely explore spirituality and explore it in a way that the rational and logical and scientific mind won't be offended by. Not this religious weirdness that's out there, because there's all kinds of things out there, but it's really hard to sift through. And I think, I could help with that. It's also a place to support and encourage people who have been hurt by the church. I mean, I don't know about you, but I felt like I gave the best years of my life to the church. And unfortunately, I feel like I totally wasted it. I felt it's like one of the worst decisions in my life that I ever made. And I regret it. And I probably still am dealing with the consequence of it. I went through a grieving process for years and probably still am grieving. And if I can help in any way, be a part of the healing process for somebody else that maybe has been hurt as well, then I guess that's okay. I'm okay with that. And also I thought, it would be a place where we can do good to the world. We can be a family. We can affect the world together. And I thought, I could do some research and spotlight certain charities that are changing things, and give people an opportunity to discover those charities and to give towards their efforts, and to help make the world a better place, and to encourage people to make the world around them a better place. It's a place where we can be a family united in purpose. It's like an online, not church family. There you go. So if you like the sound of that, why don't you join me? You can do a number of things. Some of the first things that you can do is, hey, you can like this video, you can subscribe to my channel and hear some of the other supportive and encouraging thoughts I'm going to bring to you. Or more importantly, you can also be a part of our Facebook community. I started a private Facebook group called Journey Beyond Belief, where we can get together and we can talk about these things. We can talk about spirituality in a way that is logical and scientific and rational. We can talk about how we were hurt and support each other in hard times. We can talk about how we can become our authentic selves. We can talk about doing good for people around us. We can talk about promoting and being a force of good in the world. Those kinds of things. Now, all you have to do, the link is below, and you just have to go to that link and then request permission, because it is a private group. You have to request permission to join it, and then agree to the rules. And the rules are pretty simple. It's basically, don't bully people, be kind to them, don't disparage anybody's faiths, no proselytizing. I don't want any bunch of people coming on and try to convert people and get them saved and all that stuff. I don't want any of that stuff. None of that belongs here. And also, there's no religious weirdness. I want this to be done in a way that the rational, logical thinker isn't going to come by and say, hey, this is too much. It's too weird. If there's any weirdness, we're going to get rid of it. And lastly, also, one of the rules is about spamming and that kind of stuff. No like scams, and I make $3,000 a day doing this or whatever, or hey, come to my virtual Tupperware party or whatever. I mean, none of that kind of stuff. Okay. And those are the rules. It's pretty simple. All you can do is agree to them. And then right now I'm the only moderator, so I'll let you in. I'm hoping to make other people moderators as we grow as a family, and expand that role so that we can keep our community safe and operating the way that it was intended to operate. And the last thing that you can do is to help bring new people to our family. That's awesome. Share this video. Put it on your social media pages. Talk to people that you think would be interested, that are like-minded, and say, hey, check this out. You might like this. And I thank you for all this stuff. And again, I invite you to join us at Journey Beyond Belief. Become a part of our Not Church family.